I was taken by the idea, and if you want to take Rory in its totality and what's going on, it feels like from the outside looking in that these are wholesale changes that he's doing going into next week, and for all the right reasons. Like we've talked about this, he's tried to win the career Grand Slam now for essentially a decade, and he keeps coming up short. So this time around, he's decided to do something drastic. That was go to see Butch last week in Las Vegas. That was Monday and Tuesday, the last 2 days spent.
I mean, the Butch thing was not planned. I mean, he didn't say on January 1. What? 2 weeks before the Masters comes around, no. I'm gonna go and see Butch Harmon and make sure everything's in the right place. To me, that shows he's not totally convinced on what he was working on with his longtime swing coach Michael Bannon, who obviously lives in Northern Ireland. That's not the easiest.
But it's not the first time he's done this either. You need to point that out. Like you also need to be really
2020, 2021. I mean, this was 3 or 4 years ago. Last time he saw him.
And he did this. And Butch has done this with other players as well. He did it with Jordan Spieth. Like this is not out of the ordinary.
But last time we saw Rory, did we not, at the Players Championship? He said, "I'm between two swings, right? I got a driver swing and I got an iron swing," and he's trying to meld the two. If he was convinced that he was on the right path and he was seeing great results in his practice sessions, he would not have gone to see Butch Harmon. He clearly needed something to get him over the edge to make his practice sessions a little bit better. I think that's obvious.
No, I think better to say what was obvious is he just needed to hear probably the same thing phrased a slightly different way. I think that's a better way of saying it.
He went for confirmation.
And since you haven't spoken with Butch or Rory on this, but I'm going to go ahead and go with me because I think it's important to point out that he's done this before. And you're right. He's stuck between
3 or 4 years ago.
He's stuck between two swings, as he talked about today as well. And I think the important thing to point out here, he doesn't need to figure out which one of those swings is the right swing. He just needs to be confident going into next week. He's played that golf course well. So that's what he's trying to do with all of these things. Like it sounds complicated. It sounds intense. But what he's really trying to do here is just slow things down, simplify things as much as possible. And that's why after telling us at the Players that he wasn't going to take a pre-tournament trip up to Augusta, didn't feel like he could get much out of it, he spent Monday and Tuesday of this week up at Augusta, trying to get that early practice in. He doesn't plan on getting to Augusta next week until essentially Tuesday afternoon. He'll play 9 holes on Tuesday, 9 holes on Wednesday.
Now that's interesting.
That is. And I think all of it goes to the idea that he has been tinkering with this for a long time. And it was funny talking with other players. I talked with Adam Scott and Max Homa and Ricky Fowler about this. They're all trying to do the same thing, but it's magnified when it comes to Rory because of the stakes, because of the idea that he's trying to do something that very, very few people in the game have done, and that's win the career Grand Slam. And I think better than most, he understands the gravity of that, and it's probably weighed on him heavily for all of these years. And so instead of doing the same thing over and over again, definition of insanity, he's trying to find a new way. I'm not saying this is the right way, but I certainly appreciate the idea that I'm going to mix this all up and see if this way works.
I mean, physically, he knows that his approach play has been really poor this year. That's the most important statistic. It's the greatest indicator of success at Augusta National. Like, I can see wanting to address that. The not coming in until Tuesday afternoon, and I'm sure he'll give a press conference earlier on Tuesday, then go play 9 holes, then play Wednesday. That's typically the big press conference day at Augusta National. That, to me, is very interesting because, as we've documented on this podcast over the past decade, he's tried everything. He's tried everything to break the streak at Augusta National. He's tried doing puzzles at night. He's tried not looking at his phone. He's tried to immerse himself. He's tried saying that the Masters is the most important tournament. The Masters is a not important tournament. He's going to play the week before. He's not going to play the week before. He's literally tried everything. What he has not tried, at least to my knowledge, he has not tried coming in to the Masters tournament on Tuesday afternoon. But I actually like this strategy, Rex. The reason I like this strategy is I'm going to be in Augusta, Georgia on Friday. I'm going to start covering the Augusta National Women's Amateur. And by the time Monday or Tuesday rolls around of Masters Week, I'm already kind of beat. I'm already kind of ready for the Masters to get going. Amplify that times 1 million for the players whose entire legacies can be rearranged by what happens over those 4 days at Augusta National. And I can see if you're on site as a player and you get there Sunday, and you play 18 holes, you play 9 holes, and you kind of add to the week, by Tuesday or Wednesday, like, you've got to be itching and ready to go. And for a player like Rory McIlroy, who is now in his 10th or 11th try to complete the career Grand Slam at the Masters, it has to be absolutely excruciating. And so why not spend an extra 24, 36, 48 hours at home get some sort of equilibrium, and then head up into the pressure cauldron that is the Masters. I like this strategy. He's not going to learn anything over this first 3 days that he doesn't already know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the important point. Like, I asked Adam Scott yesterday if he had any intention of doing like a scouting trip beforehand. And he's like, why? Like, this is going to be my 23rd Masters. How much more do I have to learn? Like, I asked Rory about the new tee box on number 2, and his comment to me was, I didn't even realize it was new until someone told me. Just kind of like, when someone told me, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't even realize it. Now, there's a couple changes to some greens that I'm sure we'll talk about next week, but by and large, it's the same golf course you've seen for the last 20 years. Essentially, it is interesting to me, and again, talking with Adam Scott about this, that he was really, really quick when I asked him how he prepares for the Masters, what he feels like is the best way of doing it. And I put it in the context of Rory seems to be tinkering with, the mechanics here. He wants to find a better way to do this. And he kind of shrugged and he said the obvious. He said the quiet thing out loud. It's, well, my plight and Rory's plight is a little bit different. Him meaning I have a green jacket. He doesn't. Like, I understand where he's coming from on this. And there is no formula for this other than, and I'm sure I would be really, really curious in his heart of hearts if I asked Rory, did you ever ask Arnold Palmer about how the pressure built on him not having won the PGA Championship? And that's what kept Arnold from winning the career Grand Slam. Because I'm sure this is a conversation they had together, and how it never gets easier. Like, you never reach a point where you're kind of shrug and you're like, okay, if it happens, it happens. That never occurs. It just continues to build and continues to build well into you're gray and you're old and you realize that, oh, I don't have a chance of winning this. And I'm sure that in the back of his mind is driving him to make all these changes.